educational background play a role anywhere there? Something that you guys learned?
To be honest, I wouldn't say education background.
Yeah, one of my friends told me like choosing your co-founder is almost as important as choosing your life partner.
Yeah.
Because I spend more time with him than I spend with
Yeah,
my
that's
husband.
true.
And my unpopular opinion on master's degrees is that I don't know if you really need it, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, because I feel like us running this business in itself was like an MBA. So
Yeah, it is.
we do that.
Are you into manifestation, superstitions? You guys have
No.
any superstition that you guys follow while working on Rafiki?
I can't think of anything in particular.
No, we just use a bunch of evil eyes
Yeah,
in
there's
our
no evil
messages
eyes.
to each
Evil eyes is a
other.
big thing, yeah. GPT better. So I think some people are like, oh no, ChatGPT is killing marketing or it's killing agency, but we are like, can we embrace it in such a way where we can actually improve our output?
I think it
improve
can
our-
uplift you if you
Yeah.
use it in the right way. Because a lot of these tools like Google Ads and Meta Ads have been using AI for years now.
Yeah.
And it was whether you chose to buy into it or not. So we, for a really long time, worked hand in hand with AI to improve outcomes. And I think that's a better way to sort of approach AI than, because I think both of us believe in this, but AI cannot run on its own. You need that human touch. You need that human creativity to sort of take it to the next level.
Do you think somebody could become a successful marketer even without a degree? What are your thoughts? I mean, we've circled on that, but do you think you could become a successful marketer even without that? And what is a red flag though that maybe you guys have seen in other co-founders, or you know, if you want to reveal that?
Don't be husband and wife and start a business.
That's true.
If
your husband and wife is tough.
And how did you get your first client? How did you land? Bhavish Agarwal built Ola. Oyo was built by Ritesh Agarwal. And Mama Earth was made into a household name by Ghazal Alag. Now, what do all of these entrepreneurs have in common? It's not millions of bucks that they had invested in them. It was a single idea. Entrepreneurship isn't about how much money is being invested in you or how much money you even start with, but it's about what value that you can create and bring into something that you're building. So today, we are having a real unfiltered talk all about entrepreneurship, the risks that people should be taking when they're building something new, and some common myths regarding entrepreneurship. If you're a student, a young entrepreneur, or somebody who's on the brink of making some big move, then this episode's for you. Today, we have two powerhouse entrepreneurs with us who are building something amazing in the world of marketing. Meet Arjun Sone and Sunaina Basu, who are the co-founders of Rafiki Marketing. And they're making waves right now with their strategic, out-of-the-box and fresh thinking when it comes to marketing. So Sunaina, she comes from Tufts University, and I'd say she comes with a more strategic, creative approach to things and has a very deep knowledge with consumer behavior. And Arjun, I would say, comes with a more, what do you say, entrepreneurial
You can say creative
mindset.
too, yeah.
Comes with a more entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes,
Coming from Babson College,
That's
and
true,
I think that's one of the top universities known for startups and businesses, right?
I think it's one of the only university which offers entrepreneurship as a course.
Right.
So a lot of focus on that actually, which makes it very unique and that gives you a lot of experience which you may not get in other colleges or universities.
So which was the course that you did there?
So I majored in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And it's actually a lot of hands-on learning. They make you actually run a business yourself, market a business yourself. So that gives you a lot of experience when you're actually creating your own business. So it really helped me in our journey actually. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. So if anyone's considering, there you have it, a little nugget. So together they had taken a bold step in an industry and in an era where attention spans are shorter and there's fierce competition to create this media and marketing agency together. So for those young entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs who are looking to figure out whether you can start a brand from scratch, how to do it, whether you can do it with zero capital, and what are some of the biggest myths about entrepreneurship, this is an episode for you. So welcome Sunaina and Arjun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So I just want to start off with, What are your guys' roles in Rafiki? How do you guys segment that between you guys?
Yeah, so I take care of performance marketing. So at Rafiki, we have two core services. One is social media and content marketing, and the second is performance marketing, which includes anything like paid ads you run on Meta, Instagram, all of that. So I take care of that, and Arjun takes care of the content and social media because, like he said, he's very creative from that angle and writes very well. And then everything else, whether it's things about running the business, like strategic growth, finances, all of that, that's something we look at together because obviously
Okay.
we have
Yeah.
to share
Would you
those
say
roles.
he's the more creative one? Did I swap it?
No, we're both creative.
In different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you guys then connect? Where did the paths meet?
So we've actually known each other for probably 25 years.
Yeah.
We went to school together. We went to college in the same city. So we actually in college we always had this idea that one day we'll do this together. We didn't know it actually pan out or not. Then many years later, we were at different paths, and we both went Bombay. We both were actually doing freelance work, and we realized we have a very similar approach to marketing, very similar thought process. And we said, no, why don't we put our minds together? And so we started small, very small, just two of us. And like you're saying, no capital. We had no capital when we started.
Yeah.
We just took on projects through networking and slowly built like that. So it happened very organically. It happened slowly in a way, but I think that's how it has to happen because you have to gain experience. You have to start with small clients before you build up to bigger clients. So that's how our journey. I think this is our 7th year of Rafiki. So
Wow.
it's been
okay.
quite a journey, yeah.
So was it always Rafiki for you guys, or how did you guys start before Rafiki?
Uh,
So I think both of us had different jobs before we started. I was working in Boston at a marketing agency where I was an employee working on Google ads and Meta ads and LinkedIn ads. And
yeah, I used to work in Dubai and actually an oil and gas company. So completely different than this
Wow,
field.
yeah.
I did marketing and business development for them,
Okay.
but very different than B2C marketing.
Yeah.
But like I said, the right place, right time. Both of us
Yeah.
had this idea together.
and the power of manifestation in Boston.
Yeah, in a way, it is that
honestly.
actually as well.
So it was just you guys constantly talking about it that brought it to be.
Yeah, and we felt the way agency we're currently running wasn't the best way. And I think before we started Rafiki, we actually did a survey
Yeah.
of around 100 different businesses just to understand what the problem areas were. I think one of the biggest learnings we had is that brands felt agency were more service providers and not partners. And they really wanted someone who would understand their product, understand their customer, understand their market. And I think that's the gap we wanted to fill.
Right.
So Rafiki actually means ally or partner in Swahili. It's also from Lion
thought
King.
Lion
Rafi,
King.
that's also,
I
yeah.
thought Lion King.
This is a deeper meaning. So that's why we're called Rafikis
Yeah.
because that's how we like to work with companies. We always position ourselves as their partner,
Yeah.
not just a service provider. I think that's what's helped us throughout the years. That's how we've been able to retain customers because we've really been with them. Like we're working with them to achieve those goals, not just for the sake of providing you XYZ service.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of these, as you were saying, so a lot of people, they come up with these ideas of having digital agencies,
Yeah.
even 18-year-olds. They'd be like, Chalo,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
start a social media agency. It's
Yeah.
summer holidays, let's do something
Yeah, yeah.
together. So do you think what you guys mentioned right now, that is like being a partner, is that what sets you apart from other agencies? Or how do you think you've done it differently?
So that's one of the things for sure. So I think when we set out to do this, we didn't say, okay, we want to be an agency. We said, can we solve a problem? Then we found out what that problem was. And then we addressed that through how we service our clients. The second thing is we also felt that the customer was really getting forgotten. The customer came afterthought. Okay, it's all about acquisition. You're not thinking about the customer touch points, journey, what the experience is. So we also call ourselves customer centric. So we really think about the end customer in everything we're doing, whether it's strategy, performance marketing, social media marketing. Who are you actually trying to target? And create content, create ads around, create marketing strategy around that. So we have two different approaches. One is how we actually interact with the client, where we're more the partner. And secondly is how we actually market, which is a more customer-centric, data-driven approach. Anything else on that?
Do you have
No, I think and one of the main things both of us were focused on, and I think that's important, is that because this market is so crowded, it was very important for us to differentiate ourselves. That was obviously our hope. But then as time went on, we did see, as we worked with brands gave us the feedback that was our main differentiating factor, which is like something as simple as ensuring you're constantly in touch with them. Say from an ads perspective, clients are trusting you with their money. If you are going to be proactive and say, hey, listen, don't spend your money in this time, that's what actually builds trust. Because in the survey, what we found out is there was a lot of lack of trust, especially in the like this paid ad space, because people will give their money, they don't know where someone's spending it. And I think transparency, trust, all of this comes with being someone's true partner rather than just another service provider. And to your question about, someone, I think the passion or grit you have to start something is great, but you have to be a little bit thought out, because then you'd rather choose to be a freelancer, because if you're going to be hiring people and doing all of that, you have to be very thought through when it comes to starting an agency, because now the agency word is being thrown around so much.
So anyone can start it, that's fine. But how do you
Yeah.
sustain? I think that's the main thing. How can you actually over time sustain, retain, and then also acquire bigger clients over time?
And are some of these gaps that you've identified in other agencies and you've sort of adopted into, Rafiqi's solution to certain problems, is this something that you guys have learned through your experiences? Did educational background play a role anywhere there? Something that you guys learned?
To be honest, I wouldn't say educational background.
Yeah.
In our experience, I don't think it's helped so much. It's really been experience of actually doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And maybe a client has come to us, given us their experience with the previous agency.
Yeah.
Many times they'll say, okay, they're only putting a junior person on my account. They're not giving me attention. So they want that that boutique type of approach.
Yeah.
They want to feel important. I think every client, no matter how big or small you are, you want to feel valued and given the attention you deserve. So that's what we want to give them. Any scale of client, I think we give the same type of service
Yeah, I
to
think
them.
that's also a differentiator. I think from an education perspective, maybe not of the running the business, but for me personally, because I studied psychology, I think that and a lot of focus on social psych, that really helps us, at least me, when it comes to thinking about who the customer is, how can we market better, what message can we sort of provide at a certain time, because it is, like you mentioned, a lot of consumer psychology also that plays a role. But I think nothing can beat the hands-on learning that
Yes,
we've
for sure.
got, especially in the first 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Then we had COVID come, all of that I think that teaches you the most.
That's really interesting what you said about psychology. I'm a psychology student too, so I
Nice.
completely relate how that comes into play when you're trying to understand marketing and media, and even how business works in general. I think it's very psychology oriented.
Yeah.
So could you tell me a little bit more about how that played a role for you, psychology and all of this?
So I was majoring in psychology, and then in my third year of college, I did a marketing internship, and that's when I realized that's a perfect blend. I studied psych, econ, and communications. So that was the perfect blend of all these things I studied to come together in terms of marketing, because I think psychology pervades through marketing at every point when you're thinking about who the consumer is. Like a young consumer is going to be consuming very differently versus an older one. So we focus a lot on this thing called buyer persona. So when we're creating the buyer personas, then it even goes through what type of, I'm just talking about ads specifically, what type of ad are you showing them? For a younger audience, you need to think about the length of the ad, the content of the ad. For someone older, you need to just think through everything. So that's where I think from a performance marketing standpoint, we're able to blend that consumer psychology and obviously the analytics and technical expertise that comes with it to provide a holistic solution. Otherwise, another thing a lot of clients come to us and say is that they're very technical, but they lack understanding of my consumer. So we work with quite a few luxury brands. So that becomes very important, because when you're marketing a luxury product, you really have to be in the mind of the consumer. Even going to okay, what food are they probably eating? What restaurants are they eating at? Because you really want to go deep into the psyche of that consumer.
And then how did you switch into I wouldn't say switch. How did you get into digital marketing specifically? Because I believe that was your specialization, right, for a bit?
Yeah, so I studied psych and I minored in econ and communication.
Right.
So by my second or third year in college, after doing a few internships and few jobs on campus also, I was, I think, pretty sure that I wanted to get into the marketing space. Pitching this to my mother specifically was a little bit hard in terms of how do you integrate psychology into it. But I think by my third or fourth year, I was quite sure. So I started taking on more marketing jobs. I was doing an internship in marketing in Boston itself during my coursework. And I think that's how, by the second year, I was pretty sure, and I knew that there is a direct correlation between psych and marketing. Because without psychology, how can you market?
Yeah.
And econ and everything gave me my good base of numbers. So then especially for performance marketing, I think it blended well together for that.
So you were mentioning you convinced your mom. So did you guys have to ever convince your parents? Because you are from which year were you guys born, if you don't mind?
Oh God.
Long time ago.
So was that sort of cycle there as well, where you have to convince your parents to get into something like marketing or branding?
For me personally, I didn't have to do too much convincing. I think
Yeah.
my parents were very supportive of me in that sense. But I do understand some people do have
Right.
that reservation. But I still do think if you're doing something you're passionate about
Yeah.
and you have that a skill for, you're going to do so much better in that as opposed to taking a job you're going to be terrible at. And so your trajectory doing something you love is always going to be better than doing something just for the sake of, okay, it's an engineering job or it's a medical job. So I think I didn't have to do much convincing, and I think if you're passionate about it, you should pursue it. And there is a lot of scope in this field actually, which I
Yeah.
feel often gets underrepresented.
Yeah. My convincing mainly had to happen not for marketing, for my pursuing psychology as my main major.
Yeah,
Because my
yeah.
mom comes from a sales and marketing background, so she understood the promise there. But I had to really think through how can I apply my psychology to marketing. So,
Yeah.
for example, I know a lot of youth will deal with that,
Yeah.
but I think as long as you have a good answer and you have a
Yes.
solid understanding of the why, you can't just aimlessly say, I want to study this.
Yeah.
No,
You
yeah.
have to also think through and think about that. We've had many cases like where we have kids who studied engineering who come
Yeah.
into performance marketing and they're actually really good at it.
Yeah.
So even if you studied engineering and maybe you don't like it for the first your job for the first
Yeah.
2 months, there is scope beyond that. All you need to do is like read a little, be open to what's going on and applying your skills into other fields as well.
That's true because we've had like lawyers, CAs,
Wow.
engineers, and they've ended up being the best people,
Some of our
best
best,
employees
yeah.
at our company.
Because they come from such diverse
Yeah.
thinking, right? They're open to so
They're open
many
to it and
things,
they're
yeah.
passionate about this. And so
Yes.
now that they're doing it, they're enjoying it so much more. They're putting more of
Yeah.
their effort into it. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to
I've heard
pursue
of a
that.
lot of people who make like PowerPoint presentations for their parents just to explain.
Just to convince them.
Yeah, just to convince them. They have a whole deck,
Yeah.
pitch deck ready, and they're pitching it.
And that's good practice if you want to do marketing anyways.
Yes.
So you should do that.
Okay, so just one thing. So if you were to restart Rafiki again today with zero money, what are 3 major moves that you would make?
3 major moves. I think one thing is what we feel a lot of brands lack doing is actually defining what our USP is, defining what our brand is, because without that, it's very tough to backtrack later and build upon that. So just having a very clear understanding, this is our USP, this is our target market, these are core offerings, that just sets you up just moving forward. What are some other things we would do? I think one more thing I think we would do is we would, and I think this is what we did initially, is we would just take any work we could
Yes.
get.
Ah,
Because I think people feel it's very glamorous to run your own business. When you first start, you have to say yes to mostly anything. We
Yes.
work with all type of
Yeah.
brands and
We've gone to
companies.
random places.
Yeah,
like you
all
just have
types
to
of-
do it because how else?
yeah.
are
We work
you
with
doing
car
it?
garages, like
Yeah.
very random type of businesses. But that's how you get experience, and that's how it builds in people's mind. They learn about you. They spread word of mouth also spreads about you. So take on work. Don't be afraid to say no for something because it seems like below what you feel you can do.
Yeah.
And what's
But
one
any
more thing?
opportunity, I think,
Yeah, any
is a
opportunity.
very good opportunity.
Take it. You're going to learn from
learn.
that. You're going to get
Yeah.
experience from that.
Yeah. And third, I think networking. Like,
Ah.
don't be shy to network in terms of like selling yourself, talking to people, putting yourself out there. I think that's also, again, very important.
And what are some tips you guys have for networking, especially if you're like a fresher, you have absolutely no connections, nothing? What are some tips you would give to somebody who's looking to network more?
I think go for any event you can.
Uh-huh.
It's always great to network with someone face to face. And there's so many of these events I've seen.
Yeah.
Social samosa has events.
TIE.
And
Yeah.
there are many of these things you can go for. Just go and even if you have no experience, you can always strike up a conversation and make an impression on someone. And I think, of course, online you can always, network. Are you creating content you're putting out? People want to engage with. Are you commenting on what someone else is creating? So you can network both digitally as well as offline.
Yeah.
It just takes a little more effort, I think.
Yeah,
to
and
do
I
that.
think in today's day and age, there's so many of these communities that you have.
Yeah.
Be an active part of these communities. Even like people commenting on LinkedIn on certain people's posts is a good way. I actually got that job by going for an internship fair. It's simple, but
Yeah.
like he said, put in that effort to show yourself offline because if someone sees you putting in that effort to physically come meet them face to face and everything, that goes
Yeah.
a very, very long way. And I think now in Bombay, especially, there's so many of these events happening around. Like,
Yeah,
everyone's
really.
quite lucky to have all this right now, that just go out there, spend one Friday evening, Saturday afternoon, whatever, going for these events.
Yeah.
And you never know who you can sort of
Crash
meet.
into,
Yeah.
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 And what are some networking events you guys have gone to that have really, like, if you can share it?
So I'm a part of this women's women's network, which is focused on like women entrepreneurs. I think those events were really valuable, both from a business growth perspective and a mentorship perspective. Because even as an entrepreneur, I think what happens is, of course, your family can give you advice, but if you have an unbiased mentor, that's very helpful. So I think that that was one specific networking community that really helped me, and going to any of their events. It's called Ladies Who Lead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And anything you've been to?
I actually went for one of their events.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ladies will do that event where it's also open for men.
If you
And,
can obviously, yes.
It's also interesting to meet and meet so many founders there as well,
Yeah.
so many experts in the field. So yeah, any opportunity that comes your way, I think is worth exploring. And
Yeah. And in time, you'll figure out. Like, there were some networking events we went for that were, I mean, I don't want to call, like, that weren't a great use of our time.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's okay. There's no harm in, if 10 more people know about you at the end of the day, it's
all
fine.
good.
It's worth it, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also tapping into, for us, I guess maybe we didn't do it purposefully, but a lot of people from the same school that we went to, our university background helps maybe just push that connection a little bit further. For example, we have a client in Hong Kong who, because we both happened to randomly go to the same college, which was Tufts, the trust in me was higher. So don't be afraid to sort of leverage what you've already got to
Yeah.
build stronger connections, I think.
Yeah, so when you guys were also talking about, I think going out there and finding also your first client, putting yourself out there. So
Yeah.
are there any other such harsh realities that entrepreneurs have to be ready for, but nobody talks about it anymore? Or not even anymore, they don't even talk
We'll talk about it. I think one is that failure is a big part of this process. And it's not that you may fail, you will fail. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, you are bound to fail, and that's part of the process. So it's just how do you pick yourself up, how do you deal with adversity, and be ready for that. Because that's definitely going to happen in this journey. So I think we always think it's okay, it's going to be great from day one, but there are a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome, and a lot of failure that does happen no matter what. So I think that's one thing, not maybe spoken about enough, but is definitely part of the journey.
Yeah. And also, I think the amount of different things you have to sort of
Yeah.
think about. There has to be lateral thinking. So personally, we may have started Rafiki because of our love for marketing, but as an entrepreneur, when you're running a business, there's so many other things, people, finances,
Yeah.
payments, all of this. You have to be open to dealing with all this. You can't say, oh, I love performance marketing, I only want to run Google ads. That's not what an entrepreneur does. You have to be open to dabbling your hands and getting your hands dirty for
Yeah, you're playing
many
all the
different
roles. In the
things.
beginning, you're doing everything.
Yeah.
There's no one to help you in the beginning. Eventually, you build a team.
Yeah.
But when you start, your finance, your HR, your admin, your everything. So it's a lot of more work than you may
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
okay, I'm going to start a business.
And just to Arjun's point about these harsh realities, personally for me, having a co-founder like Arjun in the beginning, I'm being very honest. In an agency thing, clients may not always be happy. If a client was unhappy with me, I would be super sad and whatever. And Arjun actually really helped me move forward from those things, saying that, rather than us dwelling on the problem, let's be solution driven. So I think for me, another thing, a lot of people say it's very lonely to be a founder, but I think what the advantage I at least personally have is having a co-founder, because then your thoughts, your anxieties are all balanced out by someone else who can come and just be that voice of reason for you.
Yeah, that's true. It's very lonely otherwise to do it just by yourself.
Yeah.
So having someone with you, at least you can share that load with a bit.
Yeah, and
So
I've
that
learned so
helps.
much. First in the beginning, I may have cried for something, but he was like, it's okay, we'll get through it. And you have the support of someone to say that, listen, don't worry about it, we'll get through it. Let's focus on the solution. And that's really
Yeah.
helped me both professionally and personally, I would
Yes,
say.
likewise. Help me also.
It's a wholesome moment.
Yeah.
So
We try.
when things do go south, do you guys then consider each other your survival strategy? Do you guys have any other survival go-tos?
Yeah, we will definitely come to each other and say, what
yeah,
do we
yeah,
do
yeah,
now?
of course.
Yeah, so that's
There's-
definitely.
Yeah,
part
one
of
of
it.
my friends told me like choosing your co-founder is almost as important as choosing your life partner.
Yeah.
Because I spend more time with him than I spend
Yeah,
with my
that's
husband.
true. True.
So how do you guys stay relevant? And I mean Rafiki, when skills in this industry are constantly changing over
Yeah.
time, the trends keep changing, industries keep changing. How do you guys stay relevant?
I think a lot of what we do is you have to put in the effort to stay relevant. So whether it's staying up to date on like what the latest, so let's use AI as an example. How we've been leveraging AI, how we can better use AI to sort of power our work in a sensible way, not just randomly use AI. And I think the other thing that we've also focused on beyond the hard skills which change is also ensuring that our team is taken care of when it comes to soft skill training. Because one angle is obviously staying up to date with all the latest trends, especially with performance marketing. We have to, as leaders, be very on top of it. So if say something like Google Analytics upgraded randomly or upgraded, it's on us to ensure that we are learning and then sharing that learning with our team. And then our teams, obviously, depending on the teams, they'll have, say, weekly meetings where they stay up to date on what's been, what's the latest that's been happening in the marketing space. So it's just, I think that.
Yeah. So I think adopting what's relevant and cutting out, because there's so many things happening, you can't pick up everything. So you have to filter out some of that noise, see what's relevant. Like, okay, AI, of course, we want to use that to better our efficiency, but we can't take on everything that's trending. So I think we still have to double down on what we're strong at and embrace things which we feel are relevant going forward. And like she said, I think we have to always be learners. We can't just sit and, okay, we know everything, because we never, there's so
Yeah.
much, always so much to learn, even for us.
Yeah.
So much knowledge we can continually gain, our team can gain. So that's very important that always be open to learning more. And if you don't know something, I think it's okay for us to say, we don't know that, we can learn more about it.
So we were discussing, right, like how it's important to get your hands dirty and also
Yeah.
to not be so scared of failing and be ready to fail.
Yes.
So has Rafiki had those times where it was just rough?
I think we definitely have
Yeah.
had many times, not just
Yeah,
one
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Oh,
Many
yeah.
times it's been rough. And that's, I think, normal part of the process. Especially during COVID, I think.
Yeah, lots of uncertainty.
Uncertainty. We just moved to a new office, and literally we sat in our office for 2 weeks, and COVID began. So then moving our whole model
To work from
online.
home.
Then some clients could not do their marketing anymore because of COVID. So then again, figuring out how we're gonna so many changes to deal with. But I think again, just us being resilient, us understanding, okay, we have a good service, a good team. That really helped us. That mindset, I think, helped us do better in that time actually.
And I think another thing is that rather than dwelling on the problem, going into problem solving mode
Yeah.
really, I think, helped us also get through these tough times. Because as an agency or as a marketing company, you will have clients who are unhappy, moments that feel really, laced with anxiety and stress. But I think just making sure you're resilient, you keep your mind on what that end goal is, and just manage to get through it. Don't let it get you down, basically. Let it get you down for 1 hour, cool. But beyond that, I think focusing on what your long-term vision is and getting back on track was definitely very important for us.
And coming to a more like maybe when cash flow has been tight, how have you balanced growth and profitability? From a business perspective, this I think was a more personal way
Yeah.
you guys kept going. What about the more business perspective?
I think quite honestly in that, you just have to take some hard decisions maybe. So just thinking about, because ultimately you want to run a business that's profitable, right? That's what's going to power your reinvestments into your business, take you through that. I think it's just about being very mindful in terms of, again, like any business runs, what are you spending? What are you charging? And I think what we really looked inward for is like maybe we have to take hard decisions in terms of like team size or anything.
Yeah.
Luckily, from that perspective, I think we've been pretty good, and we've learned with time that, okay, if something is not working out, it may be a hard decision for you to like cut some, like trim the fat, but you eventually have to, because ultimately it's going to help your business thrive and be more profitable at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think scaling is like what everyone likes to use. I think if you scale at the expense of profitability, you're creating a new problem. So
Yeah.
I think it's about sustained growth.
Right.
It's about growing, but you have to still remain profitable month over month, year over year. So I think that's the way we've approached it. We've not just for the sake of it, just tried to
Yeah.
grow so big and then have other problems. We've sustainably grown our business as well and thought about profitability more than just scale and size.
So you guys are talking from a lot of years of experience. Now, if you had to go back and meet maybe 20 to 22-year-old you, how would you describe them, Sunaina?
Let me think.
Like, how do we describe
How do
ourselves?
How do you describe
Yeah,
ourselves?
at that
Okay,
age.
fine. 22.
How are you like?
I'm thinking.
Even your early 20s, generally.
Yeah, I think that I feel like I was obviously the world was I had a less realistic,
Yeah,
more idealistic perspective on everything, work life, clients, all of it. Like, and I think that there's also value in thinking that things will be easy, because that allows you to sort of jump into
Yeah.
it. But I think that now I definitely have a more realistic view. I'm much more sure of myself. Like back then, I was maybe a little bit I doubted my abilities, my strength in terms of like when you're having to like talk to people,
Yeah.
and my confidence. I was not nearly as confident as I am today back then. But I still think that like most of my core traits have stayed with me. But I just think there's been a lot of learning, eye-opening reality checks that you get. But I think that's helped me personally, like helped me
Yes.
professionally and personally.
Can I copy your answer? Because honestly,
Copy
I
paste.
felt the same thing. Like more
Yeah.
naive that time. You don't realize what the world is, what business is, entrepreneurship is when you're so young, and looks very like rosy and exciting. And there's not that it's not a great journey, but there's a lot more reality to it and hardship. I didn't maybe know when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thrill of entrepreneurship gets you into it, but
Yes.
you don't think about the realities maybe. But I think it's good. Like I feel like our core nature may be the same, but it's just with a more realistic perspective on.
So you guys saw yourself as a little bit rose-colored glasses kind of thing, still figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
So now knowing what you do know, what is one skill that you would master? Going back at that age, you tell yourself, maybe take a time machine and you tell yourself, hey, master this skill. This is gonna help you later.
I think the one skill is a bit maybe not mainstream, is kind of like storytelling. But storytelling in two ways. One is storytelling because any brand that's successful is telling a story, is not just selling a product. So from your perspective, you have to market products, that would help. And storytelling because you have to sell yourself. It's so important. You have a story, like we need to have a story as well. But you don't learn that when you're in college or this thing. How can you sell yourself, sell your company? So, and not just sell from a very, generic and current, right? But how do you put emotion into that, get people invested? So I think that's one thing I would have liked to have learned a bit more earlier, which have helped us in pitching, but also in, helping a client
brands.
be more
Yeah.
successful. Yeah.
For me, my answer would be more in terms of I'm good with numbers, but I wish I could have, because at Tufts they didn't offer this back then, now they do, but like a financial course, say with like focused on like profitability, costing, financials, all of that. I think that's something that now I've learned obviously with time, but that's something back then if I could have studied, if I knew I was going to end up running our own business, I would have definitely spent some time studying that. And that's another point. As an entrepreneur, you have to acknowledge your weaknesses. It's okay, you can't be good at everything, but
Yeah.
then it like you need to be able to learn, be open to like asking people for advice, and just learning a little bit more.
Yeah, there's no shame in not knowing something. I feel that's important.
Yeah.
You leave your ego a little bit behind when you're doing this.
Yeah, you have to.
Otherwise, it's very tough.
Yeah. So is a college degree really worth it then? Because from what I'm hearing from you guys, there's people from vast different backgrounds joining Rafiki. I think you also mentioned like, I wish my course had a financial literacy sort of section as well. So like, Do you think a college degree is even worth it in 2025?
I think a bachelor's degree, 100%, because doesn't matter what you do, I feel like that degree gives you some amount of discipline, some amount of base learning.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to worry so much about, I mean, if you can study really what you want to, great, but I think it's okay if you study something that's not completely relevant, because as long as with time you're doing internships, I think getting hands-on experience, even in your summer breaks and everything, is much more important. And my unpopular opinion on master's degrees is that I don't know if you really need it, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, because I feel like us running this business in itself was like an MBA. So
Yeah, it is.
Do you also have an unpopular opinion on college degrees?
No, I agree
I
that.
actually agree with that.
Yeah, I also agree with that.
Popular opinion.
Yeah, now it's
Okay.
becoming
Now
popular.
it's becoming
Becoming
popular.
popular, yeah.
in 2025.
Yeah.
It is becoming popular. I was thinking when we hire people, like we rarely look at the education.
Yeah.
I mainly see the experience where they worked.
Ah,
So like, no, I was thinking,
Yeah.
when do we ever see like, oh, he's studied
Studied
in
here,
this?
here,
Like,
here.
never. I can't even remember once where I don't know anyone in my office where they studied, but I know where they worked.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
us also, when we are hiring people, we always look at that experience, especially what we do. More so, not that you shouldn't have a good education, that's also very important, but in the marketing field, I feel your experience is going to help you
Yeah.
more.
So, like, do your coursework, but pick up internships, or like do a additional any outside of your coursework. I think that's really what builds
Yeah.
you eventually.
So you said that you guys look at the experience, right? Is there anything else that you guys look at for hiring people in media and marketing? I think a portfolio is a must, first of all. When we get a lot of profiles as well, I think portfolio is...
Yeah. Anyway, you can show your creative work
Yeah.
or show some results you've achieved. It always helps
Yes.
because it's
Yeah.
showing you've had that experience and you've been successful in what you've been doing as well.
Yeah. Like, we've had employees who's like, maybe the resume is not as impactful, but they'll send like their own case studies with it, and then
Yeah.
that's actually like proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
That's where you actually see it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we make sure that you can talk about your experiences and write down everything that you have achieved, so that can be communicated well.
So we were talking about COVID times, right? So COVID was, I think, bad luck for everybody. Nobody expected it, and that was something you couldn't really control.
Yeah.
So where do you balance, luck and strategy? How does that come into play in an enterprise?
I mean, I think both are important.
Yeah.
I think strategy puts you in a position where luck can come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you've not developed and you've not kept that strategy and opportunity comes to you and you're not ready,
Yeah.
there's no point. So, I mean, I don't think we think of luck so much. Luck
No.
happens, it happens. You have
Yeah.
to focus on what you can control is strategy.
Yeah.
And you can't control luck.
Yeah.
So,
How you adapt to the luck.
exactly, yeah. So, we have to focus on just strategy. And if luck comes, we'll be ready.
Yeah.
I think that's how we can.
And we're very
Think about it.
grateful for any type of luck
Yeah,
that
of
comes
course.
our way, but that's not what we
Yeah, you can't depend
rely
on it
on.
Yeah.
as like a business strategy. So, that's the.
You don't
Probably luck.
manifest and you're like, please, good luck. Good luck.
We do a little bit.
We
but-
do we do that.
Are you into manifestation, superstitions? Do you guys have
No.
any superstition that you guys follow while working on Rafiki?
I can't think of anything in particular.
No, we just use a bunch of evil eyes.
Yeah,
in
there's
our
no evil
messages
eyes.
to each
Evil eyes is a
other.
big thing, yeah.
That and just, yeah, I think.
That's it, really,
I think being positive also
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
that perspective. Like, if we see our team struggling, it's on us to
Yeah.
show them the light at the end of the tunnel, right? That I think. But I don't think we're hugely dependent on luck
No.
or superstition from that perspective.
And what do you think is like one important thing that could show that somebody is not really ready to be an entrepreneur? Is there maybe some people that can't be entrepreneurs?
I think if you're like you're risk averse,
Uh-huh.
then it may be difficult because there's a lot of risk involved in entrepreneurship.
And also, I think, like, to Arjun's first point of, like, you have to be putting in that, like, in the beginning especially, like, you have to have grit and persistence. Like, follow up with even a medium-sized client 30 times, there's no ego involved. I think if you don't have that persistence and you don't want to go that extra mile to, like, go even 4 hours away for a meeting for your second or third client, then it's not made for you. Then you'd rather
Yeah.
be in, like, a structured job.
Yeah.
Because any day in, like, entrepreneurship, you don't know where you're going to sort of land up to either grow your business, learn a little bit more. You have to be open and flexible. If you're not flexible, I guess. If you're too structured, then
Yeah,
maybe
rigid.
it's not.
The right.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
put structure
Yeah.
into your day and everything, but I think especially in the first 2 to 3 years, you have to be super flexible.
How did you know that it was right for you guys then? Was it just the passion? You think like, yeah, we can do it. We've done things together before.
Yeah, I guess we had a lot of self-belief.
We did have a lot of self-belief. We still do, but that
Yeah.
time especially, like we said when we were younger, we had more of that
Yeah.
self-belief also. And we,
And do you think at some place, maybe when you were younger, you were a little bit more risk averse, a little bit more scared of taking risks? How did you get over that then? If you were.
I actually think it's the
Opposite.
opposite.
I feel it's the
I think
opposite
I
now, yeah.
was. If someone
Yeah.
told me now, I may overthink it a lot. But I
Yeah.
think the time when we started it, we were what 25, 26. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, this sounds like a great
Yeah, which is actually
opportunity.
quite
We can
young.
do it.
Yeah,
Like,
26,
so we'd
yeah.
spend times in coffee shops, Dulali, work from there. Like, you figure it out.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to do in Rafiki, job work-wise? I would say your favorite task.
Favorite task? I think working on like top level strategy for a client
Okay.
with the team is always fun. Brainstorming, that's the most fun. Before execution, actually ideating.
Yeah.
Ideating is more
Yeah.
fun than execution, I think. So, or working on pitch is always fun for us.
Yeah, new business
Yeah.
is, I think,
It's
the
exciting
most
to get a
fun.
new client. Everyone's excited. So that's the fun part, I think, of.
Yeah. And I think for us, we've been lucky to work with brands that we use in our daily lives. So working on any of those type of brands is just like really,
That's true, yeah.
really fun for us, and it keeps you like creatively also on top of it. And the other thing I think I personally enjoy a lot is anything to do with culture, because I think both Arjun and I have, I think because we've worked elsewhere and just as the people we are, we wanted to ensure that the work culture that we give our team is something that doesn't, like, we've seen enough people come to our team where they're so harrowed after their jobs and everything. We didn't want them to feel that way. So whether, obviously within certain guidelines, we say that, you know, as long as you finish your work, that's what we want. We try to get them soft skills training, any type of, like, we used to, like, we've taken them to say NAMAC for museums, just to get them also to feel a little bit creatively refreshed. I think that's also a nice part of our job.
You guys have really hyped up, digital marketing a lot, and I bet a lot of people are like really going to be drawn to it. So, if there's an 18-year-old who is watching this, and you had to describe what digital marketing is to them in a sentence, and they have like a very vague idea, what would you say?
You have a good
Yes.
one.
What we used to say initially was, it's providing the right message to the right people on the right platform at the right time.
Ooh.
So that's what we used to have our as a Rafiki line
Yeah,
before
yeah.
actually, which actually it is that really.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's
like a
a-
tagline.
It's a tagline in a way, yeah.
It's
So
quite
that's,
simply that. Yeah.
Because it's a very big thing to otherwise explain to someone.
And if this person were to take a first step to break into this field, what would you tell them to start with, or where would they start with?
I think platform knowledge is important. So there are now specific courses. Like, I know we said the thing about university degrees, but I think coursework, like even if you do a Udemy course or like an online course or something, just so you understand that specifically, along with any type of hands-on experience. I think nothing
Yeah,
can beat
nothing can beat that.
hands-on experience.
You take a small
Internships.
project,
Yeah.
internship, do it yourself. You need
Yeah.
to like that's how you learn. You'll never like be able to learn by
Yeah.
just doing a course. Course will help you get that
Theoretical knowledge,
but the practical, which very important, is you won't get from.
I think
Sorry, continue.
No, just the hands-on experience. Like I remember Arjun's business idea that they ran from Babson, because we were so young. We were like 18, and they were given a project to run a whole business. To me, that's so sensible. So any type of experience that you get that way, I think would really set you up for success.
But do you remember that project?
Yes, we were selling
Do you
boxes.
want to share a little more?
No, it was a class we had where you actually had to create a business
Yeah.
and actually create product, market, sales, and we sold like Babson themed boxers and briefs, and actually did really well. And this was before I think this was before Instagram also.
Yeah. It was
had picked
before
up.
Instagram picked up.
So it was like on ground sales, Facebook marketing. But yeah, it's such a great experience to actually.
They don't do this.
They don't
stuff
do that,
much
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
Do you think schools and educational institutions, they kind of lack when it comes to on-hand. And I don't know, this could be internationally as well, but what's your opinion?
So I think there's IID in Mumbai that does a really good job of it. So
I believe you were lecturing.
yeah. When I taught there, what I think really sets them apart is that even if they say you're learning Google Ads, they'll give you an actual Google Ads project to manage, whether it's for an NGO or small business, whatever it is. You're actually getting that experience to like play around, put that budget in, think about your targeting, all of that, and they do that with all their marketing. There's always a project associated with what you're learning, and I think that ultimately is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because in digital, learning can take you this far, but it's actually when you put that, you need to implement those learnings. That's when you truly learn. So I at Tufts felt it was lacking a bit, but then I had to myself go and find a job on campus that was like, say, marketing oriented. So they had this thing called Tufts Student Resources, where they used to sell on campus products like fridges, microwaves, all of that. So I went out of my way to find that and then apply anything that I learned in marketing to that. So I think the most important thing is to seek experience at this point.
For sure.
So there's not really like a set roadmap that you can give people, right? It's their own journey, their own experience. So I think we were talking about AI, right? Like getting used to AI. How has your company been using it?
So I think some people feel like, okay, AI is a threat to marketing, but I think for us, we want to embrace AI. We want to actually use it to become more efficient.
Yeah.
So are there certain tasks that we were doing that were just taking up time, where you can more efficiently do it? So we're saving time, we're saving effort. I think there's nothing wrong with embracing something which is going to help you perform better, serve your clients better.
Yeah.
So we've actually taken our team has taken a course on AI, how to use ChatGPT better. So I think some people are like, oh no, ChatGPT is killing marketing or it's killing agency, but we are like, can we embrace it in such a way where we can actually improve our output?
I think it can uplift you if you use it in the right way. Because a lot of these tools like Google Ads and Meta Ads have been using AI for years now.
Yeah.
And it was whether you chose to buy into it or not. So we've, for a really long time, worked hand in hand with AI to improve outcomes. And I think that's a better way to sort of approach AI than, because I think both of us believe in this, but AI cannot run on its own. You need that human touch, you need that human creativity to sort of take it to the next level.
So apart from embracing it, is there a small part of you guys that is a little threatened or a little scared, or you feel like, yeah, this is sort of messing up our scene, the marketing scene?
I personally don't, because to be honest, Google Ads has had it for the past 10 years, ever since I started my career. So I know.
Yeah.
We've tried to like focus on campaigns that are just AI focused, and we know that the results are not as good. I really believe that if it's a balance, like you see it as like a friend who can uplift you, I think that's a better approach than like maybe sort of replacing jobs. Obviously, you can't be, it can't be your crutch that you keep leaning on it. I think it's about how you sensibly sort of utilize it to help someone. Like you don't want to be creating every, say, ad caption or every creative on it, but there are things that it can sort of help you with, and I think that's the main point about leveraging AI the best way.
Yeah, that's true. I think even with ChatGPT, you can't just like put in a random prompt and expect the best answer. You have to feed it enough information.
Yes, for sure.
Otherwise, you get absolute nonsense. So you also have to know how to use the AI right. Exactly what you said. So, do you think somebody could become a successful marketer even without a degree? What are your thoughts? I mean, we circled on that, but you think you could become a successful marketer even without that?
I think so.
What really matters then?
Like I said, I think
some qualities that matter for you to do it?
For you to do it, I think one is, of course, you have to have that inclination, that passion, that interest, and you have to develop your skills. So a degree may give you the education, but the skills you still need to develop. So you have to have that amount of capability also to be able to service a client or start a company.
Yeah. And I think for me, the reason I keep saying even bachelor's is needed is because I think in any job you need discipline.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that like certain degrees, certain courses help you achieve that type of discipline. For me, it may not be the skills you get from that, but the discipline, your ability to like say follow process. Like for us, we need to give a weekly report. You have to do those processes. That type of stuff, I think, if the education provides you that, that's good. But from a skill set perspective, like he said, we rarely look at like what have you studied,
Study,
Yeah.
yeah.
where have you studied. We're more, as founders, we are more focused on their experience, getting reference, like their reference check, their communication skills. I think that's more important for
Yeah.
us.
So once you get all of this checked of a fresher, maybe, how much can they expect to earn in the field of digital marketing as soon as they're brand new in the system?
I think that depends on, again, what role they're coming in for, but I think between 30 to 40K
Okay.
per month.
And how can they look to expand it a little bit? Just increasing skill sets, you'd say?
Experience.
Yeah. Experience and showing value. I think we've had people who've been with us, like someone with us has tripled their salary in maybe 3 years because they've
Yeah.
been so good.
Wow.
So they've really showed so much value, so much ownership. That so if you're able to prove yourself, it's not you're going to be stuck in that range.
Yeah.
You can really go a lot higher very quickly also.
Yeah,
Just
and
how much effort and
we had
Okay,
someone who
good.
joined us as an intern, and they learned so much on the job that now people are like requesting for them to be on every account because their learning curve was so high. So I think it's also about how opportunistic you are as a person, and you need to display that to your whoever's interviewing you also.
So what do you think is that one, skill set that never goes out of style? This could also be a soft skill. Could be that persistence and opportunity.
I actually think it's
grit and
persistence and grit, and your, like, I don't know what it is. It's like your ability, like your desire to learn, and never
Yeah.
like this person I'm talking about. They're always like trying to learn, watching a video in terms of at lunchtime, trying to learn more things, whether it's communication, whether it's actually hardcore skills. I think that is what, even as leaders, when we look at, sort of sets people apart. Because it's like, as long as you are driven to make yourself better every day, we ultimately think of you as like a greater asset to us, because that's going to help our company also.
Okay, now coming back to a little bit of a more wholesome moment about the whole co-founder jazz.
Yeah.
So what do you think people should be looking for in their co-founders?
I think you have to be like on the same wavelength, but have like skills that complement each other.
Yeah.
So I feel that you need to have similar like values. It sounds basic, but just the type of person you are is very important, because you're going to spend so much time with that person. You're going to build something with them. So just the basic level of values and beliefs and how you as a person is important, but then also try to have skills that will complement each other.
And how do you guys complement each other?
So we mentioned, right? Say, again, he's in charge of content. I'm in charge of, say, performance marketing. Whenever, I'll give you a very small, I call him a wordsmith because he's very good with words. I don't have the same hold on, like, say, writing and everything. So anytime I'm like, oh, Arjun, can you please see, does this sound good, for example,
Yeah.
then
And she's very number driven, analytical. So again, there's a lot of ways you can complement, like skill wise, complement service wise, personality wise.
yeah.
So I mean, you don't think of all these things
Yeah.
when you're actually choosing, but
Of
it's
course.
at the back of your mind is just something to
It makes it, and I think trust.
trust.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
trust them to
Yeah.
make good decisions. There has to be, like, trust both ways, and that,
Yeah,
I think,
So
is very
would you
important.
guys say you have similar values?
Yeah.
yeah, for
And
sure.
do you guys ever have any differences in opinions? Have you had any differences in values?
Not in values, maybe sometimes in opinions, but I think ultimately it's like a marriage, right? You know
Yeah.
that the end goal is this. So even if it's a few, like, I think as direct and as like you approach it very directly and communicate, be over communicative about it. Don't be like childish, and like he said, you can't be egoistic in this.
Yeah.
I think that is a good way to sort of move forward from that. But again, I think because more often than not, touchwood, we're on the same wavelength. It's not been such a large issue.
So, but has there ever been a moment where you all just didn't agree on one thing, didn't agree on a certain project, and maybe a little bit of ego tuffle came about there?
No, I can't even think of
No.
one instant, to be
Wow.
honest.
Oh, that's
So far,
weird.
touch wood.
Touch wood.
No, or then like even if say there's a project someone wants to take on, I'm like, I think both of us view each other in a way where, for me personally, his opinion is very valuable because he thinks differently from me in certain things. So I'm like, okay, what he's saying makes perfect sense. Let me at least take that into when I'm approaching it, whether it's say like pricing to a client or something like that. I think that's we view each other as sounding boards rather than
Yeah.
difference of opinion.
That's nice. It's
Yeah.
like just listen to everybody and then come to a common
Yeah.
ground consensus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Because sometimes I need a push, right? Like if I really like a client and I'm charging X, but he's like, no, I think we deserve more. I need someone else to tell me that. Like
Yeah.
sometimes.
Both ways.
So both
Both
ways.
ways,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that though, like that's a good, better way to sort of
This is a
approach it.
non-controversial answer.
yeah. And what is a red flag though that maybe you guys have seen in other co-founders, or you know, if you want to reveal that?
Don't be husband and wife and start
Yeah.
a business.
That's true.
You
If your husband
really
wife is
think
tough,
that?
yeah, I think it's
Oh.
tough.
Again, this is because of what we've seen. I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
other people's reality is different, but like when you have to take your work back home, you have to have very strict boundaries.
Boundaries.
Otherwise, like we've had been part of very uncomfortable conversations during meetings when the founders are like married or a couple, and we're just like, oh my god, go
Yeah.
leave the meeting saying thank God we're not married.
Yeah, I'm sure some are good, some are fine and good, but we've seen a few examples of this thing. Yeah.
No, and I think it goes back to the values because ultimately you're running a business. There's so many things that are shared. And if you can't trust the person, if you're always going to be doubting what
Yeah.
they're doing, then there's no like you can't run a business like
Yeah,
that.
no,
Because ultimately
right.
it's like our team is like our family in that sense
Right.
for both of us. So then there's so many things at stake.
Yeah. Want to be entrepreneurs but are kind of scared to get into it because there are honestly some stereotypes that are there in India, especially some
Yeah.
barriers there.
Break the stereotype, number
Yes.
one. Secondly, don't fear what people will say to you because people will say a lot of nonsense to you. Just be sure of who you are, sure of your business and what you're running, and like speak with confidence. I think that alarms people, that shocks people. They're like, oh, she's confident, nothing I say is going to affect her. I think that is that's what's most important. And also, number three, don't take things. People will say whatever they want, don't take it to heart. You're trying to run a business at the end of the day, and like that's what you want. And now we have I grew up with a mom who was working and my main inspiration, but even around us now, we're so lucky to have so many women entrepreneurs who are doing so good. And as long as you're, safe, from a safety perspective, go out there, put yourself out there. There's no harm because the more you put yourself out there, the more confidence you build. I think that's more most important. Don't go. I think when you enter a situation with that preconceived notion that someone is going to think less of me, that's not true. Just don't even have that thought in your head because then you won't act in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you. We are more exposed to female entrepreneurs, but not only that, but we also fail to realize. I feel like even people with moms that are work at home moms, they have a lot of crazy organizational skills that you probably won't see in your dad, for example. And people don't really acknowledge it because they just like, no, that's a work at home sort of thing. So yeah, I totally agree. Like you see it every day around you, but yet we kind of discount it for some reason.
Yeah. And now I think the climate, it's fully changed. Most women are
Yes, or
working and
out.
whatever they're doing, whether you're working, running a business from your house or going into office, don't let these preconceived notions bother you when it comes to that. Be sure of yourself and your business, I think. That's more important.
And if you both were to switch roles one day, have you heard of Freaky Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if
Body swap.
Freaky Friday happens, tomorrow's Friday, right? Tomorrow, how would it be different if your roles switched?
I don't think it'll be very different. I was thinking about it. The end result may be
Yeah.
same. Maybe we have to deal with different things
It
as
makes,
each other.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it won't be like something terrible will happen if we were to switch.
Yeah, for a few,
Just like-
I think for a few days or weeks
few
we'll be
days,
fine.
yeah.
There have been
Not for
times where say I can't be at work for X
Yeah.
reason or something, and then he's been able to take that on in a very good way. So I think over time, watching each other, if like say I need to think of like content that he's gonna think of, I try to put on my like Arjun cap
Ooh.
and think about it.
So is that how you guys step up when the other is not there? Or what else do you do?
I think that's the main thing. Now we have
Yeah.
good understanding of each other, how the other person works.
That's really interesting.
We have a good
So-
team to support us now also.
Yeah, the
which we didn't
team
have
is
before.
very
Yeah.
strong.
So that's also helped us a lot.
And I love that you said that you put on, oh, if I was Arjun, what would I do? Rather than do it your own way.
Yeah,
Like,
but
you're
I
not
think-
saying that I'm gonna now do it my way. I'm gonna take his task and
no,
do
no,
it
no.
my
For
way.
like
That's
when it
really
comes to content and
Yeah.
messaging and all, I try. We get like 50% as far. But yeah.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have her skills if I was her like that way in terms of her
Yeah.
data-driven approach and how her mind works. It'll be interesting for me to experience. So I
is
feel I would
that-
learn from it.
So is that some of the stuff you really appreciate about her? Are there any other strengths that you wish you could have from her?
This is definitely one. One, I feel she's very much a go-getter.
Uh-huh.
So if she wants something or she wants a client, she'll make sure she gets it,
Yeah.
which I also admire a lot. And she won't have any reservation. Okay, this is going to be tough,
Yeah.
or this may be a chance. She's like, no, let's just get it. So I feel that's something I've also like learned that okay, why say no? You know, just because something may be a challenge, don't like close the door. Like take up that challenge. She always does that. I think that's something I would learn from her
What
as
about
well.
you?
I think one thing is he's very structured and organized, way more than me, to be honest. You are.
Not way more.
No, for me, but that's how I
Yeah.
like view him. I think that's one thing. Number two, one thing that I've seen about him, he never gets annoyed if anyone asks him the same question 10 times. I do.
I get annoyed internally. Maybe.
Internally, but externally, I can't see it.
Hide
He
it,
has
yeah.
this open door policy where I'll be like, oh my God, someone's coming again to me. But he's just like, no, tell me. I'll help you. He's always willing to sort of sit with them, sit with our team, go through all of that. And number three, which I have said it almost like many times, is he's taught me so much in terms of crisis management that I don't think I could have learned from anyone else. And just like the support, like the role of being supportive and saying that it's okay. Like sometimes there are really tough clients where I come and I'm like, Arjun, what do I do? He's like, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. Like that reassurance that I get from him makes me also like I may have self-doubt or something, but that really helps me through my days.
So was there
Same.
ever a time like this where you had to implement his crisis management skills where things went just terribly bad? Was there some instance you can recall? And you had to just step up, figure it out. What did you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't such a big crisis. It may be like mini crises that come
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that like, I'll like, if it's like a personnel problem, like someone on our team and everything, so there are a few situations where I've adopted that mindset and we've, found a way out of it using each other's.
Yeah,
I
both
think,
ways. We've both done
strengths.
that. I think to each other. If someone's not there or can't, we'll take the other person's perspective and try to apply that.
Yeah.
So that's always useful.
So was that always there in the early days as well? Or did that develop over time as you guys started working together?
I think it developed
Over time, as we figured out more
Yeah.
of our own like
yeah,
strengths.
So how
and
was it like in the early days?
we were
stuff.
doing everything. We were doing everything. You take up any like job you can get, your mind, like everyone's working on everything together.
And was there a lot of self-doubt maybe at certain times? Because I know a lot of people get imposter syndrome as well when they
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
start off.
Especially when we were like meeting bigger clients, I definitely had more imposter syndrome. Like, how am I here? Do I deserve to work with such a brand? So you have that, but then you develop experience and you develop this thing. So then you're like, no, I deserve to be, the marketing company for this client, for example.
Yeah.
So that's normal. I think it's very
I
normal.
think the self-doubt was higher back
Yeah.
in the day, and then
Now it's smooth.
yeah,
there are
there's still some doubt sometimes.
few days, but
Yeah.
I think it like just gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
So you
I'm-
have really started with no investments.
No, not
We put like 50K.
50K each.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you all personally
Yeah.
put in. So it was bootstrapped. Totally.
Yeah.
Completely.
Wow, okay. And how did you get your first client? How did you land it?
Again, through our network only, someone we knew
Uh-huh.
was looking for a marketing partner agency, and so I told Sunil like, I'm gonna go and meet them. Why don't you come with me? Let's do it together. And that's how it started. Like we got our
Yeah.
first client just through that, and we had nothing to show at that point. Like we had not done any major work. It's just like how we could pitch to them is, I think, what worked for
Yeah.
them. Of course, because they knew us a bit, that definitely helped as well.
The trust
I wasn't
helped.
completely blind.
I still remember that presentation. Like
Yeah.
it comes to mind.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Are there some takeaways from your first presentation that you still carry along with you, which you're like, yeah, this wasn't that great, so I developed on it a little?
No, I think that learning happens throughout, like every presentation,
Yeah.
every, I would say even year,
Even now, we also
every
improve, yeah.
6 months, we're
Yeah.
constantly improving like how we present it. It's
Yeah.
just that first one has that like flashbulb memory in your head in terms of how it went.
It must have
Oh.
been 80 slides, you know?
Wow.
So now
Yeah.
we've understood, okay,
Yeah.
Someone
less,
doesn't have-
sometimes less is more, yeah.
Yeah.
So more concise and to the point, and not just for the sake of making a big presentation.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And if a young person, they were to decide choosing between just getting a job, and this is in the marketing media field, if they had to choose between getting a job, going into freelancing, or starting something of their own, what would you really suggest? Because there's so many options out there nowadays. It's all flexible. What would you say?
I don't think I would suggest any. It would depend on what you want to do or like what your goal is. So like if you're a
Yeah.
person who needs like structure and you have a proper career path, then get a job. If you want to work in your own hours, be a freelancer. And then if you have a vision, I think, where you want to build
Yes.
something which you feel very unique, and you want a team to then become an entrepreneur, and, start your own company. So it really depends. I don't think I would say you should do this or
Yeah, I think
or
it
that.
depends on the person. We've had people who work with us and then like or who were freelancers and then come to work with us because they miss the structure. And the other thing I think that happens when you're freelancing is you don't have access to all the knowledge from your other team members or from the agency itself. So if you also want to stay on top of it and you're trying to learn a lot more, I think working at a company is a good starting point, and then you can see where that road takes you.
And have you ever tried freelancing?
Yeah, before we started Rafiki, we were both, I think, freelancing, doing
Oh, okay.
projects.
Yeah.
And how was that like for you guys? Because a lot of people are considering and do pursue freelancing, especially in the early 20s, even late teens, I've seen.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's a good
Yeah.
Start.
it's a good start
Yes.
to get that hands-on experience. But then you also need to be super structured, super accountable,
Yeah.
because ultimately you're accountable to yourself and that one client, right? So you have to be. I think those soft skills need to be
Yeah.
set in stone well for you to be a successful freelancer.
And do you think this trend has come about like more recently, or was this kind of always there in media and marketing? Because this is something I've noticed very
Yeah.
recently.
I think during COVID, people got comfortable working from home as well.
That's true.
And many people
Yeah.
didn't want to go back to the office or that type of setting. So they became freelancers,
Yeah.
working for themselves. And that really led to a lot more freelancers coming up.
Yeah.
And also, I think like the accessibility that's there nowadays
Yeah.
with apps. I mean, we used to, I don't know if I can say this on camera, but we used to download like cracked versions of Photoshop and Adobe
Yeah.
InDesign, all of that, like as students. So things have just become so much more accessible on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of this. So that I think definitely does
Yeah,
play
yeah,
well
yeah.
with
For sure.
For sure.
Definitely.
So okay, are you guys? Do you want to answer?
Just one point on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
freelancing, I also think that to that point you mentioned earlier about like getting experience, right? There are platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, and all
Yes.
where you can pick up
Pick up
structured
the
freelancing opportunities.
Hmm.
And even that, like, even if someone were to show me a project saying I freelanced and this is what I did
Yeah.
via Fiverr, I'd be like, okay, this is great experience. So if you're you don't have so much time to commit to a job, but you can sort of display your skills via freelancing.
Yeah.
You can use freelancing to your advantage to even take the next step in your career.
Yeah. So are you guys ready for a rapid fire round?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I go one by one or no? Okay. I'll give the question and then let's alternate maybe.
Yeah.
First, yeah, but both of you give the answers.
Okay,
first,
fine.
Okay. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay,
really
okay.
bad at rapid fire, but it's fine.
It's okay. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay. First one. If you lost everything today, what's the first thing that you do? First, Sunaina.
Oh my god.
It's a tough question.
It's a tough question. If I lost everything today, what would I do?
The first thing you do.
Do it over
could be
again.
Do it,
as silly.
like
Do it again.
restart it.
Restart the whole thing.
Restart.
Yeah.
You do? Same
Yeah.
answer?
And appreciate the journey.
Oh, Okay.
whatever's
That's
happened.
sweet.
Looking
Yeah.
back, that's very
That's
sweet,
sweet.
very sentimental. Best investment, paid ads, SEO, or organic social?
They all need
All
each.
of the above.
Yeah.
One business idea in digital marketing that you think the youth is sleeping on?
I don't know youth, but I feel there's a lot of scope for personal branding. Like a lot of people now are trying to become like brands themselves,
Yes.
and there's not enough maybe companies that are providing that service for them. So, just in general, I feel that
Yeah.
maybe that's something people can look into.
What do you think?
I'm thinking.
But I totally agree. I've seen a lot of personal coaches
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stuff
Many
like
of
that, but
the-
only on LinkedIn. I don't see them anywhere
LinkedIn,
else.
no, Instagram, they're coming also
Yeah.
with their reels and
Oh, they're on Instagram too.
yeah.
What, they just give tips?
Tips, and they try to build like clientele through giving value and content through that as well.
Have you ever considered?
We have, but we have not a good experiences doing it. That's why we don't.
Oh, you've done it.
We've done it for like 1 or 2 people, and
Oh.
it's very tough to I feel
It's
deal with a
very
person.
Yeah, why? Like
Yeah.
egos? come into
Egos,
it?
yeah,
Their
yeah.
egos,
Egos are
yeah.
big.
Specific needs,
Yeah.
all of that. I don't have an answer for this. I'll have to come back.
Very disappointing.
The youth is so amazing, I guess. But it's true. Like people are doing
Figured out
so.
everything.
They're doing so many
Yeah, so
cool
many things,
things, and
yeah.
like
They
there's so
figured out
much
all the loopholes
opportunity.
in digital
Yeah, yeah.
marketing. There's nothing else to
Yeah.
go with.
I wish we had TikTok here. I guess but that's
is
not
also true.
nothing that we're sleeping on. but-
Yeah. What's harder, finding your first client or your first investor? I think I know the answer for you guys.
Fast will be client.
I think client also.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather have 1 million followers or 10 lakh rupees in your bank? And why?
1 million.
1 million followers.
Why?
Because that followership, if you drive an engaged audience, that can propel your
Yeah.
financial growth to beyond 10 lakhs, I feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
1 million is
Yeah.
like, if you monetize each follower for 1 rupee also, you're like, it works out.
Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah. The best way to get noticed in 2025: Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube?
Again, I think it depends what you're selling or providing.
Yeah. Or what?
Hmm.
I'm a huge YouTube fan though, so I'll just go for YouTube.
You know, some people, especially me, I love watching YouTube when I'm eating. It's like a routine.
Yeah, look,
I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people have
Yeah,
that as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. I would pick
so I
YouTube
relate.
because I also feel like someone is more engaged and
Yeah.
focused in that moment.
Yeah, they're not scrolling.
Then,
maybe.
like Instagram,
Fast.
honestly, like I see myself, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm registering. I feel like with
Exactly.
YouTube, it's you're there to
Yes.
watch
Yeah,
videos.
watch videos. It's true.
And I think it's
Maybe
just
that.
like this powerhouse of knowledge. You can
Yeah.
do everything on YouTube. You find any source of information
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree.
for sure.
So, what's one skill that you wish was taught in school but isn't?
I think what you said for this, from entrepreneur perspective, is finance.
Finance.
And
Yeah.
planning from that perspective of running a business, and that's missing.
So, if you could swap lives with any entrepreneur for a day, who would it be?
My answer more because I think, really inspired by what she's built would be Falguni Nair.
Mm-hmm.
Nykaa.
Yes,
Hmm.
Nykaa.
I just think what she did was amazing. Later, she had a whole corporate career and then
Yes.
did this. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, true. I think
I,
I
I
would.
love the story that she's
Yeah.
built behind it as well, that every woman should feel like a hero.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine would be, I think, Mr. Beast.
nice.
Ooh.
I think what he's done is also
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yes. Insane. And I think he was at it for
Yeah, so many years.
years.
He's so persistent. And
Yeah.
people don't realize that. They just
Yeah.
know him now, but he's doing it for like over a decade.
Yeah. And he says if he were to restart completely again, he could go viral in
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
day.
Because now he
He's
understands
figured
it so
out.
exactly. Yeah, he understands how it works.
He's nailed
Yeah,
it.
he knows
He
the
nailed it.
algorithm.
Yeah.
I think he recently went to Harvard and stuff too.
I'm
give,
sure,
like, a
yeah.
talk.
He can really
It's crazy.
teach a lot also, yeah.
Damn. So, if you had to hustle your way to success in college, what's the first move? While you're still in college.
I think what we said is getting hands-on experience.
And seek opportunities,
Yeah.
follow through on your opportunities. Like, you have to, I think, put yourself out there and go find things to do to make yourself like a more, I don't know, holistic, well
Yeah, I think just because you're young, it shouldn't restrict you.
Yeah.
You can still do so much. You can do more than some people who are much older, actually,
Yeah.
if you have that ambition in you, basically.
Yeah.
So, if an entrepreneur right now is watching the whole podcast episode, first of all, thank you. And
Thank you.
also, what would you want them to take away from you guys? From your journey, especially.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Choose a good partner.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think build to last. Don't just build for quick.
yeah. I think
This
that's
thing,
really important. And something we've learned
Building to
from few
last.
clients also, which is that think about the long run. Short term
Yeah.
success will like take you only so
So
far.
far.
You have to, I think building to last is very important.
Mm.
And especially now, young people, what is one thing that you think they should stop worrying about so much when it comes to their career and finding the right career?
I think this worry that you have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, like we said, there's so many people who come work with us who
Yeah.
have come with different career paths and are doing so well. So it's not like you have to have everything. This is my career path. This is what I'm going to do. It doesn't have to be like that. You can figure it out as you do it as well. I think give yourself that freedom to do that.
Yeah, and give yourself the space to figure out it's okay. No one is
Yeah.
telling you to, like, no one's sitting on your head
Yeah.
saying, like, I'm going to give you an award if you figure it out in a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing that I see is that now the new generations and stuff are like mental health is a huge focus for them. So if you are in a situation that is not making you happy, either you try and sort of, because in a job you'll have to follow through on certain things. If it doesn't suit you, it's okay to find something that suits you better. Because I feel like often you're too much in your mind, it like weighs down on you and everything. Like, it's fine. Just
So were you
Chill.
guys in that same sort of hole as well when you were younger, which is like, I have to have this figured out?
Yeah, I'm sure we all think like that, especially
Yeah.
if you finish college. Okay, now what am I going to do? I have to do this. I have to have this job. I have to. So like, it's very normal anything like that, but it's okay not to have it figured out. I think that's you have your full life to figure it out. So I think that's.
So I think this is a great end to know that don't be so scared and feel like you have to figure this all out immediately. Take on as many experiences as you can and take risks if you want to build something that's long lasting. So I think this is a great message to the youth out there who want to build something of their own, even if it's not a business, even if it's just anything that they want to take up in their life, even if they're in school right now and they're figuring out what extracurriculars to take out. I
Yeah.
mean, everything's right here.
yeah.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Arjun,
Thank you
so
for
much.
having us.
This was an amazing talk. I was going to say session.
So
It was a great,
Great talk. Yeah. Thank
so,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone,
Thank you.
for watching.